I'm Rob, and this is another results tutorial. Welcome back, YouTube family and loyal Empire subjects. Today we are painting the man that made it happen, Director Krennic, the mind behind the Death Star laser. Starting off with some beige red on the face. As always, remember to thin your paints down with a little water or some other medium so as not to obscure details. I have chosen to do his hands if they were in gloves, but you could just as easily paint them skin tone if you chose to do so. A little Citadel Riking flesh shade for shadows and depth. Remember not to allow this to pull up too much in the flatter areas. If it does, just dab your brush onto a paper towel and then wick it up really quick, and you should be fine. After that dries, we'll come back with the original beige red to highlight the forehead, cheekbones, and bridge of the nose. Then we can add some Vallejo Model Color Basic Skin Tone to the beige red for a final highlight. You might be asking yourself why reapply the beige red first. And it is because the contrast between the shaded beige red and the skin tone would be too stark, and therefore it wouldn't look proper if you did it that way. For the hair, I chose Vallejo Game Color Earth and Game Color Night Blue. I wanted Krennic to have a nice dark base color in the brown spectrum, but also not too dark. The addition of the tone when shaded helps boost the color contrast nicely. And I also usually add blue to minis that have darker or black hair colors. To shade the hair, I chose a mix of 1:1 Citadel Nuln Oil to Agrax Earthshade. Nuln Oil to darken it, where the Earthshade is to help bring out the brown base color. Then back to the original mix to start highlighting. For this, we want to use a fine tip brush and pick out the higher areas. You want to sort of just touch the hair as opposed to brushing it on. This helps keep the paint on the upper areas and out of the recesses really well. So the Mini has two rank bars on it, which implies that this is a older Krennic, and thus we need to add some grays to the hair. So to do that, we're going to start off with some Vallejo Game Color Sky Grey and add that to the original brown-blue mix and lightly start picking out some of the hair strands. And after that, we're going to come back with some straight Sky Gray for the final highlight. And we're going to employ or use the same technique that we used in the last section, where we're just touching the hair with the paintbrush instead of brushing it on. And this will help us keep us from getting the paint in the recesses. And on to the tunic and the cape, using some Vallejo Model Air Blue Grey. So this is a lighter gray, and although our Mini is primed in gray, this is going to take several layers to get good coverage. So as always, remember to take your time and allow the previous sections to dry before going back over them again. So after putting on the blue-gray, I decided that the cape was slightly too bright for the way I wanted it and needed some depth. So I came in and hit it with a heavy shade of Nuln Oil. You could choose to base your Mini in a darker gray and work your way up from there. It would save you a lot of time, a lot of hassle, and frustration of trying to re-highlight this. Now back to highlighting the cape, and once again I'm going to be using the Vallejo Model Air Blue Grey, taking my time to get coverage. It probably took me 4 to 5 coats to get this back to the color where I wanted it. As this is super thin coats and there's not a lot of small areas, there's really no details that got obscured through this process. adding some Vallejo model color white gray to the blue gray for our second highlight. And we're going to use this to cover most of the shirt and about 40 to 50% of the cape on the lower sections, and targeting the shoulders on the upper areas. Now for some straight Vallejo model color white gray to further push those highlights on the shirt and the cape. Here we're only looking to cover maybe the lower 30% of the cape, and again the shoulders. For some little extreme highlighting on our cape, we can add some Vallejo Game Color White Primer to the white gray, mainly just focusing on the shoulders and the lower sections of the folds of the cape. Vallejo model color black will be used for the gloves, the belt, holster, and boots. Here you want to be careful not to spill this black onto the cape or the shirt, as it will be a little difficult to clean up at this point. And now for Krennic's trousers, we're going to be using a Vallejo model color German gray. Also, you want to use this to start highlighting for the boots, the belt, holster, and gloves. Mixing in some Vallejo Model Air US Gray to highlight the trousers. Also, you can use this to further highlight the boots, the holster, and the gloves on the Mini. And I added a dab or so of Vallejo Model Air Light Gray for a final highlight on the trousers and a small final highlight for the boot and the gloves where needed. For the blaster pistol, the movie artwork shows Krennic's weapon has a wooden grip and forestock. So for that, I decided to use some Vallejo Model Air Mahogany. For the barrel section, you want to use a darker colored steel, such as Vallejo Model Colors Natural Steel. Alternatively, you could take Vallejo Model Air Steel and Vallejo Model Color Black and mix them together to get the same effect. Now for the belt buckle and highlights to the blaster pistol with Vallejo Model Air Steel. Remember, this paint is very thin, so there's no need to thin it down further. And on the blaster pistol, you might notice that there are two straps holding the barrel into place. For this, we'll be using Vallejo Model Color Black. A little bit of Citadel Nuln oil here to shade the belt buckle. Also, I chose to give the blaster pistol a little bit more depth by hitting it with this Nuln oil. Vallejo Model Air Steel again to highlight the blaster. Also, don't forget about the code cylinders. There is one on each shoulder. And here we are, Director Krennic from Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars Legion. I actually like this sculpt. I thought it was one of the better ones I've seen in this line so far. I really like his scowl and his forward pose that he's in. I felt that they add some dynamic to the character that way. Remember, for early access to videos, to help decide what I paint next, and to help my channel, head over to patreon.com. There's a link below, and you can support my channel. Also, if you like this video and want to see more, hit like, subscribe, and share below. Alternatively, you will also find links to all the paints I've used below, and to help support my channel even more, you can use these links, which are affiliate links that do not cost you anything more. And once again, thanks for watching.